Hello, we're back.
We're missing somebody.
We're just saving this chair for Jonathan.
Jonathan's really here.
This is in memory of Jonathan.
He's wearing his invisible suit.
He stepped away for a
moment. He'll be back. Bigger name on the other line.
So I'm Bill Fairman. This is Wendy Sweet. Jonathan is really in that chair, but you just don't see him.
We should just have a cutout of
Here
him.
with Carolina Capital Management.
We're on?
Our website is, yes, it's a surprise to Jonathan that we have a show.
No way you're doing this.
CarolinaHardMoney.com. If you're a lender and if you're a borrower and you're interested in borrowing some money, just click on the borrower tab. If you're an investor looking for passive returns, click on the investor tab. Don't forget to share,
like, subscribe, tell all your friends, refer,
all that good stuff.
You know,
we have a question or a chat box over on the side. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask them. We'll have a guest coming up here, Jason Debono of NuView IRA.
Is it Debono?
Debono.
I think it's Debono.
Debono. Sorry. He'll be on in a few minutes, and we're going to discuss IRAs.
Yeah.
Why they're important.
And
unfortunately, why only 5% of the population even know they exist.
It's really kind of
self-directed
sad,
IRA.
isn't it?
So,
for sure.
Wendy, you've been doing your Wednesday with Wendy.
It's hard to say.
For what? How many months?
Oh, I think it's been a full year.
I would say you're pretty close to a year.
It's been a full year.
So
over a year.
What trends are you beginning to see? Let's say since COVID.
Well,
any trends coming up?
There's always, I think things are always a little different. I think when I first started doing these Wednesday with Wendy things, that most of the people that were signing up are people who are already in business and really just wanted direction or wanted to expand or, really figure out what their goals were, making sure they're going down the right path. Now I'm getting more and more newbies, not only from people signing up for the Wednesday with Wendy thing, but also borrowers that are filling out applications and that kind of thing. It's more new people. And I always think that that's kind of strange that more new people want to get in at a time when, to me, it seems scarier, I guess. But I think what's going on is they're seeing real estate, sales going on, houses under contract. They're seeing things in the real estate market really shake and move. So they're assuming that now is a good time to fix and flip or wholesale and that kind of thing.
And it can be
if you're in the right area.
Yeah.
If you're in the right area. I was talking to somebody this morning that lives in the Charlotte area. Mm-hmm. They are buying houses in Mocksville, which is outside of Winston-Salem. It's about an hour from where they live.
Yeah, I think it's a little closer to Statesville than Winston-Salem, but it's right there along I-40.
Yeah. So I think they're smart because they're looking in more outskirt kind of towns to do their deals than looking like right underneath their noses because the competition is just so fierce.
It is.
Your biggest problem though is when you're trying to invest a little outside of your community is you really need to have good boots on the ground. You need to have contractors that you trust, a real estate agent that you trust, people that know that area better than you do.
Yeah. If it's a place you can't go to once or twice a day, you better have a contractor that you can trust.
Yeah. Yeah. I talked to another guy this morning that is a fairly new investor. I say fairly new. He's really new. He's done one deal already. He is actually in the Greenville-Spartanburg market. And he actually filled out an application to do a loan in Anderson, which is maybe an hour from there.
Yeah.
For them. It's 2 hours for us, but it's about an hour for them there. And he was telling me how he's going to the smaller towns and saying, well, it's really difficult to find deals in Greenville. Greenville's a great market. And I can see where it can be a little tougher because Greenville's a great market. There's a lot of sales going on there. And he said, I think I'm going to expand more toward the Charlotte area and invest in Charlotte. I said, stop right there.
If you think Greenville's
I said, that might be the biggest mistake you'll ever make. because there are no deals. You know, you're not going to be falling over deals in Charlotte. There's action going on in Charlotte, but it's not the kind of action that an investor really likes. It's hard to find good deals.
It's tough. I mean, I found a deal that I closed on a couple months ago that was in Concord, which is just outside of Charlotte. And I mean, it had a lot of hair on it. It had 27 errors we had to get.
That's
off
not
of it.
fun.
Yeah,
27.
So,
And not 27 errors, 27 errors.
Yeah. So it is like the competition's high, and it's tough to find properties, especially most people aren't willing to do a lot of work on the title side. So it's tough to find properties that you can just come in and buy in Charlotte or around Charlotte.
We probably have 3 or 4 deals that are sitting on our pipeline, and our pipeline goes out 3 weeks maybe of what's going to close. We have three or 4 deals in there where there's title issues on them, and they've been sitting there trying to get these title issues fixed. They're fixable, but it's not something that happens overnight. So, we're getting more and more deals that have hair on them like that.
Mm-hmm. And we don't mind helping to fix title issues. You just have to know once you find it, it's going to delay the process.
Yeah.
Well,
significantly.
I mean, that's why the low hanging fruit isn't there any longer, obviously, but you're still getting off market deals. And if you're getting stuff you're getting more and more with issues, is because people are having to work harder and harder.
That's right.
To get the off-market deal.
Yep.
That's right.
Exactly.
Prices are going to continue to go up, and the best way to do that is look for the harder ones. At the same time, go into your bedroom communities.
Yep.
You don't have to be right in the heart of everything.
That's
and don't be desperate,
because people
don't close on the first thing you see.
That's right.
Listen.
That's right.
Prices are harder good prices are harder to come by for investors. It's exactly the same thing for the retail buyer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, if the prices are too high, let's say in Charlotte, then they can easily commute from Rock Hill or Concord or Kannapolis.
And people are moving out. They don't want to be in the bigger cities anymore.
And I've always liked Salisbury, but it was too hard to get there and back.
That's right. That's right.
And the main reason, it's taken them 35 years to finish the highway between here and there, and they finally did.
Welcome to the DOT.
Now it's an easy commute.
Yeah.
Well, Bill, as you said in the previous one, I mean, the money is made on the purchase.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't get desperate. Don't make a move with thin margins just because you think you just want to do and you just want to get something done.
There's no gray.
It's
It's all black and white.
You got to wait. And I know it's tough to wait, especially for what you don't want to do is become you don't want to be one of our or your own lost story.
Yeah.
We don't want you to be our lost story, so we're going to tell you if the margins are too thin.
That's exactly right.
So,
one of the things. I'm sorry.
Let me finish.
Okay.
The easiest lessons learned, the lessons that are learned the most are the ones where you've lost money. The easiest lessons learned is when someone else has lost money and you just learn from them.
That's right.
It does seem that retention of the lesson is correlated to the amount of money lost.
That you lost. That's for sure.
So go ahead.
That's for sure. The thing that I thought was really interesting about, this guy he's already done one deal. He's heavily involved in Facebook marketing, Craigslist. That's how he's finding and selling his property.
Craigslist is still a thing?
Yeah, believe it or not.
Well,
and
fax broadcast.
Yeah. And I said to him, you're in Greenville, right? He says, yeah. And I said, well, the best real estate investor association that I've ever been to is the Greenville.
CREA.
Which stands for Carolina Real Estate Investor Association.
They're very active.
Their education is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Carla Kuhn, I think, is over that. And they just do a fabulous job of bringing in not only good speakers, both locally and nationally, but they do a really good job of keeping everybody in the group involved. They have, really good subgroups. They do a lot of, Saturday learnings and that kind of thing.
They have national speakers that are based in Greenville, Spartanburg area as well.
Yeah. So anyway, I hooked them up. And my point is networking is so very important in what you do. And you're so much better if you surround yourself with other people that know way more than you do. And you've got to
That's why I hang out with you all.
You've got to learn from each other.
He's learning from his mistakes.
That's right. You do sales,
hanging out with us.
Sales back and forth. That's how you buy and sell property. It's how you learn from other people's mistakes. If you don't know other people, then you can't learn from their mistakes, can you?
That's very true.
So anyway, get with your local real estate investor group. If you're a new investor, get with that group. It's called the National Real Estate Investor Association. You click on their website, and they have all the different cities that these associations are located in. Pick your city that you're interested in and join. It's the cheapest education you'll ever get.
Don't say that. The least expensive.
Okay. Yeah.
You don't want it to be cheap.
That's
you just
right.
want it to be not as expensive.
That's exactly right.
Did you say Jason was on?
I did.
How do you know?
Where is he?
Because Scott told us he put it on the screen.
Then he
that's
took it
really,
away
really
from me.
cool.
I hate that.
I know. So here's something that's really
Sure.
cool. We talked about Jason joining us from NuView Trust. And one thing that I've preached and will continue to preach till the day I die is that if you understand self-directed IRAs, you can raise an unlimited amount of money to do your business with. Unlimited. Because when you know how to do it, you're going to train other people how to do it. And you can't help but be successful.
Well, not only that, you want to mitigate your taxes as much as possible. And you can only do that through, well, not only, because you could buy a life insurance policy.
Best do that.
That's not taxable, the earnings, but
right.
The best way to mitigate your tax liability is by having tax deferred or tax exempt type account.
Right. Right.
So are we bringing Jason on, or are we just going to hide him in the background? There he is.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody.
It's thank you so much for joining us. We've been working for so long to get you on the show.
Well, I'm glad to be here, and I got to listen. I was in the background, but I got to hear the last 5 or 7 minutes, and I couldn't agree more with just about every single thing that you guys shared. So
Awesome.
I'm in good company.
Awesome. I love your farmwood background. That's so pretty.
Thank you. I would love to take more credit for it, but I'd be lying if I said I had anything to do with it. But I do enjoy it.
It's very pretty. Very pretty.
So, Jason, where is NuView based?
We're in Florida. We've got a trust office in South Dakota, and then our operational administrative office just outside of Orlando, Florida.
Nice. I know Orlando has been hit kind of hard with the COVID because of the lack of tourism and stuff. How's the city in general doing, you think?
Good. I think as good as it could be. You're absolutely right. I mean, being a service community, we're starting to feel the fallout, and I'm about 20 miles outside of downtown Orlando and about 40 miles from Disney. So we're a little bit removed from it, from a day to day. But I think what happens in a lot of market shifts and cycles is there's, obviously large scale stuff that everybody sees. And then there's a lot of macro and micro stuff. And Orlando would be an example of a market that is feeling it much harder, certainly probably than maybe the Carolinas, where they're not as reliant, on that sort of income. So, yeah, we're feeling it here. We're feeling it both at the service sector. And then a lot of real estate investments that are short-term rentals and other, properties that rely on that as well are feeling it. So, we'll have to see now that unemployment, at least for Florida, is, the extra payments and other things have kind of gone away. I think it's starting to rear its head more so than it was a month or two ago.
Yeah, we were given some stats on our earlier show today about serious delinquencies with mortgages, and Miami, Fort Lauderdale area was really at the top of the list. Of course, they depend a lot on tourism as well. Don't worry, New York and Las Vegas were in there. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough on those service sector areas right now, and I feel awful for them.
Mm-hmm.
most of them, obviously Disney and SeaWorld, and they're giant corporations, but it really affects a lot of the small business owners that depend on that extra business that they're not getting now. And that's who I worry about the most. People that have put their life savings into their businesses and through no fault of their own are having a difficult time.
Yeah.
So I'll get to less depressing things.
Yeah, I want to ask you some stats that I would imagine you probably know better than us for sure. But do you know offhand what the percentage of money that's sitting in custodial accounts that's not being used, that's just sitting there not being invested?
That there's so many different ways to get to that number. I don't know. I don't have a clue where to begin. If I had to just throw some lawn darts at it, I'd say probably about 10% of the overall retirement market, which is, about 4 trillion of IRAs and over 7 or 8 trillion when you factor in all the other plans. About 10% of that is probably sitting in some sort of cash or cash-like instrument. Now, obviously, that changes, right? I mean, interest rates have dropped significantly. So a cash instrument that somebody may be getting a couple percent in, they may be getting 0.25% at best today, or 0.1%. So it's part of what's fueled a lot of the market growth in both real estate and in stocks is nobody wants to be in cash right now. So there's not a lot of alternatives to it that's risk adjusted, but there's no doubt there's a lot of money just sitting on the sidelines looking for something to do.
Right. A whole lot.
10% of 4 trillion.
Yeah. 10% of 4 trillion is a lot of money.
Yeah. I'd have to take my shoes off for that one.
That's the biggest concern about people that do have self-directed accounts. They have to direct the money, and you'll have a lot of people out there that, what did Larry call it? Shelf help.
Yeah.
A lot of people will take real estate investing courses and that kind of stuff, and they want to use that money, but they're afraid to pull the trigger, and then they end up sitting there with their money in the account doing nothing. And then you have active investors who really know what to do, but they're just having a hard time finding deals too. So that's a concern to me. But you guys provide a bunch of education to teach people about the different investments that is possible with a self-directed IRA, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, you hit on something that is the thing I always tell people is the biggest benefit of self-direction is the biggest drawback to self-direction, and that is you got to make your own investments. Mm-hmm. And for a large portion of our clients, that's what attracts them to self-direction, right? They love the idea of making their own investments, and they're good at it, and they do that every day. But unfortunately, there is a percentage of potential clientele that they like the idea of self-direction. It sounds great in theory, and they may even set up their account, but as a practical matter, they're either ill-equipped or unable to go out and make an investment. So, our firm specifically really tries to spend a lot of time and energy on education. It doesn't really benefit us as a company to bring on a client and 6 months later they don't make an investment and go back to where the account that they came from. It's generally costs us money as an organization. So we're pretty deliberate in bringing clients on, really encouraging clients to come on with an investment in mind, and more importantly, we don't tell clients what to buy, but we certainly want to educate them to be as informed as possible about what the investment options that are out there, and available to them are.
Yeah, and to be clear, you do not endorse any investments. You're just showing them the investment vehicles that they could get into with a self-directed retirement account.
You got it. Yeah, we don't recommend, endorse, or approve any investment made. We're a passive custodian.
Yeah, excellent. So how'd you get into this business anyway?
It's funny. I love the question because it's kind of an ironic story, but I've been doing this 15 years. I was in my last semester of college. I was working at a retail department store, and I kind of got to the point where I said I probably need a real job in a real field if I'm going to go out and graduate and do something decent with my life. And, I went to an internship expo and I met a bunch of companies, and I will never forget coming across NuView when I got the opportunity to interview, and I just had no idea what the company did. So I picked up the phone and called my dad and was like, Dad, IRAs, real estate, I know you know about investing in real estate because I've ripped, dirty carpet out of a rental property many times. I don't know how this IRA stuff works. And my dad, I'll never forget, he said, you can't do that. He said, you can't buy real estate in an IRA. My broker told me that it wasn't allowed. And I thought, here I am, a college kid. Dad says no. Obviously, I'm now more intrigued. And so I went to the interview and long story short, after that interview, I walked out of there and I called my dad, and it was really the conversation I had that, man, this was a kind of a startup company, was small at the time. We didn't have a lot of accounts. Business had only been around for 2 years. The idea of self-direction was very, very, very new to most people. But my dad said, man, I wish I knew about this 10 years ago. And I turned down some other opportunities at larger firms. SeaWorld, you mentioned, I could have joined them as an intern and some other financial firms, but none of them were attractive to me because it didn't give me this sense of excitement around this kind of startup company that's offering a service. And my dad's no different than, the majority of baby boomers out there. He's just looking for opportunity, and the door had been closed on him. So it's kind of an interesting ride, and I've loved every second of the last 15 years. But yeah, it was really, I got into this more so by accident than by design.
Excellent. So did you have anything you wanted to
I thought you were in the middle of a question. Go ahead.
No. I'm just filling the time. You guys are just too slow.
He doesn't take a breath so nobody else can say anything.
Well, that's why they put me by myself on this side. I can't talk amongst too many people because I talk too much myself.
That was really smart. So, so one of the things that we talk about when we're talking to people about self-directed IRAs, because the three of us love self-directed money. If you have access to somebody that has self-directed money, there are so many different things that you can do with it, and as long as you can help guide them to do it correctly. So one of the things that we talk about all the time is the difference of buying real estate in your self-directed IRA versus lending it. What are the consequences of that? Buying it in your self-directed IRA, what are the things that you can do if your IRA owns it? Getting a loan using your IRA as the owner of the property. I mean, there's a couple different ways that you can twist that up, right?
Yeah, and I think I'll maybe go up about 10,000 feet and just kind of paint a picture of how I think, we look at the marketplace. And I'm an investor myself, so I can kind of speak a little bit from kind of the personal side. In my opinion, there are three types of investors out there for self-directed IRAs. There's what I call the active investor. So this is someone that's already making these types of investments, knows them, understands them, right? They already buy and sell real estate, and they just want to mirror or duplicate what they're doing in their IRA or in their personal or business in their IRA. And there's tax benefits, which was mentioned earlier. And there's some rules and nuances that need to be adhered to. But basically, that's someone that's doing exactly what they're doing outside their IRA, just doing it inside. That's what I would consider kind of the active self-directed account holder. The other extreme of that would be the truly passive account holder. This would be that person you want lending you money. This would be someone that has no idea for the most part about real estate investments, has no desire to go out and knock on doors and pound the pavement looking for real estate, but they like and understand real estate enough to know that it makes a good bit of collateral, and they like the attractiveness of the higher interest rates that something like a private loan could offer. Those would be your passive investors. They're not going to find self-direction on their own. They're going to find it by somewhat generally the active investor, right, going out and talking to the passive investor. The group that's right in the middle of those, which would be a hybrid, right, for lack of a better term, those are the people that I would actually probably consider closer to myself. And that is, I'm an active investor. I own investments, but I don't mirror what I do outside my IRA inside my IRA for a couple reasons. One, time and energy, right? I'm a full-time employee here at NuView, and so I don't have enough dedicated time. And two, I like the more passive nature for some of my investments, and they fit nicely in an IRA. So I'm a hybrid because I know and understand how the real estate investment works. I know how to pro forma it, right? I've learned from plenty of mistakes, as we were talking about earlier. So it makes me a great lender because I can look at a deal and say, yes, this is a great investment. You're going to really do well with this if all the things, forecast out the way you want, and, your construction projections are all good. The market, projections are accurate. So I still may be a lender, but I can toggle back between being truly passive and maybe finding some more active investments. So I share that because depending on who's listening today, where you are, if you're an active investor, then hybrid and passive investors can be great resources for you. If you're a passive investor, then you need to go out in the marketplace. You mentioned the RIAs and networking. And if you like the idea of real estate, but you don't want to go roll your sleeves up and get deep into it, then be passive. But you got to go out and network with some hybrids or some active people that are willing to do the legwork for you. And at the end of the day, I had someone say, well, if you could do the deal, why did you write a loan at 10% when you could have done the deal and made 20%? Well, because I made 10% doing none of the work, or I got to put in more of the work and take more risk for 20. It doesn't make sense. So kind of a little bit of a long answer, but I like to share that because I think it really helps underscore how passive and active investors outside IRAs work with investors inside IRAs and vice versa.
That's exactly right. And
Yep.
I love the way you talked about you did nothing and made 10% rather than work your rear end off and make 20. When you calculate the hours that a lender puts in a deal versus an investor putting into that deal or the contractor putting in that deal, the lender always makes more money per hour. Always.
Oh, yeah.
We have a question up here from Lisa Hoover, and it's a great question. So she's saying, when you're self-employed in real estate as an investor, how can I start and fund a Roth IRA?
So it's a hard question to answer specifically. So I'll move it to some generalities and we can come back to specifics if needed. When it comes to saving inside a retirement account from a starting standpoint, meaning you want to add money to it, you have to have earned income. Earned income, it depends on how you pay taxes on the money that you earn.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a real estate investor and all you do is take profits from real estate, that is not considered active income. It's not earned income. And I hate that term because, Lisa, I'm sure you work really hard and earn every dollar you make in real estate, but for tax purposes, it's not earned income. That said, if you had an LLC that collected that income and then you took payroll of some kind or some form of earned income out of the LLC, so same money, but called it something slightly different and paid a little tax on it, now you're eligible to contribute to an IRA. So it's a little bit of semantics, unfortunately, but it has to do with whether or not you have earned income. Once you check that box off, then it becomes, what's the best type of self-directed account? Is it the self-directed Roth IRA? Should I look at a 401k, Roth 401k? And obviously our team can help you with that. But that's really the starting point, is making sure that the money that you're earning is considered is considered earned income, whether it be self-employed income or just earned income. It's the first step in contributing to a retirement account.
Plus, if you have a traditional already, you can always convert a portion of that into a Roth, right?
And that's where I was going to go with the next part, which is most of our clients don't start their retirement accounts with us. I'm not suggesting that it doesn't happen, but understand most, being 80% or so, they're bringing money from another account, an old 401k, an old retirement plan, an old IRA. They're moving those over into, taking it out of stock investments and moving it into, real estate investments. And once they do that, you're absolutely right. If they want to move it to a Roth, pay the tax, those are all options. They're not required to self-direct, but certainly options.
Well, Lisa also added to that about a solo 401k, which I think if you want to get, if you're self-employed and you and your spouse are the only ones that are in this business, that is an awesome way to do it.
Yeah, you can put some funds away for that.
You can have a Roth part of it. You can have a traditional part of it. You can borrow against it. If you accidentally make a investment choice that is not allowed, that will only blow up that investment choice, not your entire IRA. So there's a lot of great things about a solo 401k. However, you have to do a lot of research and education on it, because it can get kind of complicated on your own, correct?
Yeah, the solo 401k. So actually, the reason I was a few minutes late hopping on here today was I just did a 1-hour course on the solo 401k for a few hundred investors.
Excellent.
Was it recorded?
It is recorded, and it will be
Okay.
on the blog section of our website. But
Awesome.
you're absolutely right. It is the best possible plan to get into if you qualify, number one, and if you want to take on some of the responsibilities that gives you all the benefit. And I say that because if you're just going to be passive investor and you really don't have an active role, you just want to write a couple of private loans, collect the interest and move on, you probably don't need all the benefits that a solo 401k offers, because a self-directed IRA is going to be the easier approach, less hands-on, and it's going to give you the same opportunity. But if you want to add more money to your account, if you want to have full investment control from a checkbook standpoint, if you want to be able to sign the checks and documents as the trustee, you can only do that in a 401k, not an IRA, without jumping through a bunch of hoops. So lots of nuances, but I couldn't agree more. If you have any form of self-employed income, you need to take the time to understand how that plan works and then decide you don't want it. Don't assume you don't need it. It's got to be an informed decision. It's the best plan that exists if it's right for you.
Perfect.
That's great.
We have another question. James here. I'm interested in becoming more active as an investor. However, most of my portfolio is in a self-directed IRA or 401k. Any general advice? So to become
Now, a 401k, can you borrow against that?
Well, there's again a lot of different ways we can approach this. I think for starters, when you say you want to be more active as an investor, does that mean you want to generate more day-to-day living money from your investments? Because I can be the most active investor and not make a dollar into my personal bank account by doing everything through my 401k or my solo 401k or my IRA. So you have to first ask yourself, what's the desire of the money? If your desire is to use the money today or in very short order, then yeah, it poses a different question, because the IRA is not going to be as advantageous because you're earmarking the money for the long term. What you're getting for earmarking it is tax-free growth or tax-deferred growth. So it's great if you can wait. If you can't wait, then it takes, unfortunately, there's not a lot you can do with IRA money to make money today that makes good financial sense. You can take out a loan against your 401k. The problem with that is whatever investments you make are made in your personal name and they're taxable. That said, if your sole intention is to get more money in your pocket today, that's certainly a strategy we've seen people deploy. And the CARES Act has actually made it easier to pull some money for the short term out of your IRA and your 401k and make those investments and then put back what you took out. So again, short term, the penalty that you pay is you give up the tax deferral on that money. The benefit you gain is that you have access to it today. And that's really what it boils down to.
Yeah. And with being active, and you have to be careful, because there's a lot of things that you can't do with your IRA money that you can do with cash. For example, if you bought a rental property, you can't go over there and change a light bulb or cut the grass, because it's not for your personal benefit. It's for the benefit of the IRA. Everything has to be managed by a third party. You can't accept payments and then turn around and pay the IRA. Now, the check could be written to the IRA and all you're doing is sending it in. But the point is, if it's not like you're running the business and you can't mingle any of the funds, it all has to be either for the IRA or you have to have cash that's just for you. Am I on the right track?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, being an active investor in an IRA, as we talked about earlier, has some limitations. It's a great strategy and it's very opportunistic, but there's some boundaries. Getting money out of IRAs, and again, it's the hardest part about an IRA is people want money today. Mm-hmm. And they want that instant gratification. And there is a difference. I recognize there are people that do want to earn a living in real estate, and I do get that. But unfortunately, the penalty that you pay by trying to use your IRA for the money that you want to live on today is you're foregoing all the tax benefits that you get in an IRA. And for me, that's not a trade-off I'd make. I'd rather go find the money somewhere else, borrow it, beg, borrow, steal outside my IRA to earn a living personally, because that money in my IRA is sacred. There's just no better type of money for it. And I'll kind of share, if I've got a minute, to kind of illustrate what it looks like. We talk a lot about investments, and I get it. It's what's attractive. People want to know, make money. But what people step over is how much more impactful wealth building is than the investment itself. And one of the things that I do to illustrate this, in real numbers, is the true value of tax benefits. So if I take $1 and I double it every year for 20 years, at the end of 20 years, if I do it in my personal account where I pay 25% tax rate, right? That dollar will become 72 grand. Now, most people would go, that's awesome. You turn $1 into 72,000 bucks over 20 years. You're an amazing investor. I could take the same dollar, make the same investment over the same time period. So there's no difference between me and the other person from an investment standpoint. But if I put that dollar into a Roth IRA first, and I make the same investment and forego the 25% tax every year, instead of having 72 grand, I have $1,048,000. So we're talking about the same dollar, same investment, same time frame, but the tax advantaged account is going to yield me nearly $1 million more over 20 years. So going back to my comment earlier, if you want to withdraw it from your IRA, use whatever CARES Act loophole or loan provisions exist, put it into your personal name. Every dollar you make is getting you closer to 72 grand and further away from $1 million. And if you think about it that way, you'll probably understand why, I'm so emphatic about that not being a very good decision. It's short-term solves a problem, but long-term it's not wealth building. And really, we got to combine the idea of good investments with good wealth building strategies, which IRAs offer. And that's how we get to building wealth in the long term.
Yeah, and that's part of why people like to invest in real estate anyway, is because you can take appreciation over the long haul, and you're not being taxed, each year on the new value of the house. So you're only being taxed at the end when you sell it, right? Mm-hmm. So you're able to build up that wealth over time, just like you would on a tax exempt vehicle. Tax deferred vehicle, you're doing basically the same thing, and you're only paying taxes as you take it out. God, I love the way that works. and that's one of the things that I always, and correct me if I'm wrong, I know there's other ways of doing it, but I always tell people that if you're going to use your IRA for anything, use it in the lending space, right? Because there is no tax advantage to be receiving interest income. And if you're going to do that, do it with a tax deferred or tax exempt account. If you're buying property in your IRA, you can't take advantage of any of the depreciation that the tax laws currently allow you to do. Now, you can always offset that a little bit with borrowing against it. And then, of course, you're subject. I know we're getting into the weeds.
Yeah.
So I'm going to leave that alone. But you pay cash for your actual real estate, and then you use your IRA money for stuff that isn't already
for lending
a tax benefit.
Yeah.
Right?
We have lots of lenders in our company that will lend their IRA money to us so we can loan it out for them, or buy notes from us that we're doing. And then they also borrow money from us to buy and rehab houses. So so they're using it, but they're doing both.
Yes.
Yep.
So it doesn't have to be an either or, right?
Yeah, and we have two ways they can invest too. We have a 506D regulation fund that they can invest in, which is purely passive, and I love it because you can compound your returns over so many years. It's the perfect thing for an IRA.
It is. It really is.
And then if you're not an accredited investor, you could buy fractional notes with it, and I just love that part of it. Was that a question for you? I don't think so. I was just spouting off.
Yeah.
Well,
Jason.
I'm predominantly a lender in my own retirement accounts for the reasons you just mentioned. I'll share kind of just some perspective from an organization. So we custody about $1.5 billion of assets, and it's not exactly a third, and a third, but it's close enough with some rounding. About a third of our customers do private loans of all different types. A third of our customers own real estate of all different types. And a third of our customers own private entities, which would include passive investment funds like a 506D lending fund, could be a real estate fund, could be an operational business. It really doesn't matter. But our clients are pretty split, about a third, and a third. And they all have what I appreciate about what we do. And I'll go back to something, and I don't remember who mentioned it earlier when I was kind of sitting on the sidelines, but there was a discussion around, the best lesson to learn is the least expensive and least painful is the lesson that someone else learned and you just got the
Right.
experience from. And, all of our clients make those investment decisions generally based on past experience and things that have happened. So it's fun because I get to live vicariously through thousands of clients' experience. And I've run into some sticky situations that I've been able to navigate moderately well, because I've either seen it play out and seen some really smart clients navigate that murky water, so I didn't have to figure it out on my own. So when it comes to our clients' investments, I've learned a couple things. They're very smart, and generally they do what they know that they're good at. And I think for a lot of our real estate clients, they know they're good at real estate. And they know that they have strategies and structures and ways to buy investments and markets and really make good money in a very low risk way. And so I think for a lot of our deliberate real estate clients, they're not throwing, Hail Marys in the real estate market and speculating. I mean, they're really pretty active in what they do. So it's fun to see our clients get to participate in all different investment types and really in all different strategies, whether they're active, kind of hybrid or fully passive.
Jason, what are some of the most common mistakes that you see people making with their IRA, like loans they shouldn't be doing, people they shouldn't be lending to, or investments they really shouldn't be doing?
Oh man, how long do we have?
I know.
We have thousands of clients, and I think even the best investors make mistakes. If you ever invest with someone that says they've never lost money on a deal, it's probably not someone you should invest with, right? I mean, there's some issues there. I think what it boils down to, I will share some common things that I've seen. Number one is it's investing without understanding the asset. Whether you're going to be active or passive, you still have to understand what you're investing into. You don't have to be an expert. You don't have to figure out every nuance of the deal, but you got to know what it actually means. So I think that's the first thing. It's no different than closing your eyes and picking a stock, right? You might as well go to Vegas and put it on the blackjack table. If we're just going to go for the luck of the next card out, then that's probably better suited for Vegas, and at least you'll get free drinks while you're doing it. Investing without knowledge is, in my opinion, the first way to lose all your money really fast. The second thing, and I see a lot of this in real estate, especially in IRAs, is they only factor in best case scenario and they never factor in worst case scenario. So, if the deal doesn't make sense, if things aren't great, it doesn't matter if it makes sense when things are great. And I can, easily point to the pandemic we're in. The people that are really going, how are my real estate holdings going to perform? Generally, probably were in that position the day they bought it. They just realized it today. People that are going, I could go 4 or 5 months without rent. It's not ideal, but I bought this in a manner where I can survive that. So there's some strategy of understanding kind of what happens if the market does go sour, and what's my exit strategy. And then I think from a private lending standpoint, you mentioned two things that I think are so critical. One is investing with someone they shouldn't be. And I hear this one all the time, and I'm embarrassed to say this, as much as my dad was a catalyst for me taking this job, and I owe him a debt of gratitude for that. I'll also share somewhat of a story he'd probably be a bit embarrassed by. But my dad called me, honest to God's truth. He called me and said, "Hey, son, I've got this investment opportunity, to invest in a movie that's coming out." And I thought, well, gosh, that's a pretty interesting opportunity. And given that you live in a pretty small town in Florida, I'm not sure that there's a lot of movie production. Like, how did you come across this? Oh man, this guy called me, and this deal is the group that was in Shrek, and going on and on and on. And I just thought to myself, Dad, you know nothing about this group, and you're ready to put $50,000 into it. You don't know the first thing about a movie, but forget about that. If these guys were so good and these guys were the producers of Shrek and all these other things, you think that they're randomly robo-calling you for 50 grand? So, there's an element of just understanding who these people are.
Right.
What is their track record? I tell people that I borrow money from, I don't want you to tell me you don't make much money. I want you to tell me you're going to make 200% on this deal. I'm happy at 10%.
Right.
I want to know you got extra opportunity, that even if things go bad, I'm going to get paid. Don't be embarrassed to be successful. It makes you a better borrower, not a worse borrower. So that would be one. And then the second one is trusting the borrower too much. He who has the gold makes the rules. Mm-hmm. So if the deal doesn't fit your box, don't let the borrower talk you into something like, for example, I don't need title insurance because this is a deal that I know really well. Okay, well, you guys, the three of you just talked about a pipeline of deals full of title issues, right? Mm-hmm. Why in the world, for the sake of $1,000 that my borrower pays, would I run the risk of my title being clouded and losing the property? So there's some just general due diligence stuff that I think people start looking at returns and they forget about common sense logic. And I think it boils down to don't be a victim of the idea of big returns. The word guaranteed should be a reason to run for the hills. Mm-hmm. Lack of track record doesn't mean you won't invest with someone. It means they just have to prove more so that they're worthy of your money. It's all of those things. And I'll kind of end this due diligence rant with one of my favorite Warren Buffett quotes. And Warren Buffett says, return of principal is always more important than return on principal. And so many people get caught up and, I can make 12%. Well, 12% of nothing is zero. I'd rather have 100 grand back. So, do your due diligence, do your research. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. If it sounds too good to be true, ask more questions. And if at any point in the process you feel uncomfortable, walk away. There's so many deals that exist out there. Find stuff that's good, and when you find it, stick with it and do your due diligence. And I won't say you'll be just fine. There's always going to be some landmines you'll step on occasionally, but let it not be self-inflicted wounds by just being too aggressive for return and overlooking the real value of due diligence.
That you
well
are
said.
Just singing music to our ears. We say this to people all the time. We're involved in several mastermind groups that we are, just so excited to even be a part of. But even within those groups, there are investors that know better, that are getting more and more educated as they go along. And I just about a year ago, when I went to one of these groups, one of these investors was talking about investing in, where was it? Belize, something crazy like that. I'm hearing feedback over here. But they were talking about investing in Belize and in a new project, and then started talking about, I'm going to make, 17 to 27%. And my head's about to explode. I want to go, what are you thinking? You know better. But he had been educated enough to where he thought he knew better than he really knew. And it was just so off the mark. And we hear that all the time, people chasing the double digits on returns, and singles will pay the bills all day long. Yeah. Singles and doubles, way to go. You don't have to hit a home run every time you get up to bat, right?
What we want people to start saying is, when they start hearing people throw around 15, 20, 25%, it's like, that sounds dangerous.
Yeah.
Like, what is that? It's not necessarily a bad investment, but that sounds dangerous. Tell me more.
Yeah. And it's not that they're not out there. There are deals that out there that are double digits, that are good, solid deals.
Sure.
But there's a risk that goes along with that will match that return. Mm-hmm. And most people can't sleep at night if they really knew what the risk was.
Yeah, and it's okay if you're young, you can take risks, but as you get a little bit older, you
Like
need to
Bill.
take fewer. Thank you. And
You have the old eyes, right?
Yeah. That's right.
your job is to minimize the risk the best you can. And the first place is, like you said, knowing and understanding the person you're investing with or the company you're investing with,
Mhm.
and getting references with the companies that you're investing with. And, don't just send me the people that have had good experiences.
Yeah.
I want to talk to some of them who have lost money with you.
And how did they behave?
And how did they treat you when you lost money?
Mhm. Yeah. Did they hide in the shadows, or were they
Right.
reaching out to you to see what you could do to work things out? And it's really good too that you were in a position, Jason, that you were able to tell your dad, don't do this. This doesn't make sense. Why are you even considering this? But are you allowed to do that with your clients? Are you allowed to throw up red flags for them?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question, and the answer to that is no. We don't provide any form of due diligence. That said, we have resources on our website. If someone sounds confused, we ask them questions, not because we want them to convince us. We want them to maybe ask themselves some questions that they didn't think to ask to begin with. So, unfortunately, that is the drawback. It's kind of like the car salesman, right? Their job's to put you in a car that you like and can afford. It's not to determine if you're a good driver. And it's unfortunate because, in some cases, but I also understand the other side of that, which is, my job isn't to direct people. I'm not equipped to. I'm not a great investor. I've been fortunate to kind of understand how it works, over my years of experience in doing what I do. But, I'm not equipped to tell people it's a good or bad investment. It's their own money. I like to use the drop the kids off for a sleepover type litmus test, which is, think of your money like your kids, and you're going to drop them off at somebody else's house. Would you do that with your kids without asking a few questions? What would be the things you'd want to know? What would be the safety nets, the backup things? What are those safeguards that you put in place? And you should have the same or similar set of those for your money. I'm not suggesting money and kids are equally as important, but I think I have having two kids, I have no problem saying, yeah, can't have kids without money. I think everyone with kids understands that. And, it is, we work hard for our money, and it's amazing how many people are so quick to just let it walk away without any real understanding of where it's going.
Which is why it's so important to be able to get on your website and watch the videos and the webinars that you've put together that other people can learn from. So what's the best way for people to reach you and to find those videos, but to reach you to ask you about your fees and all the things that you do as a custodian company?
Yeah, so the website is where I generally, direct people to start, because it's just so chock full of information. And that's NuView with a U, trust.com, NuView trust.com. And that, again, is going to be the easiest way to at least start. There's so many videos and written contact and things you can download. Educate yourself. I think we live in an information age. There really is no longer an excuse to not know something. We carry around a phone that gives us every sort of trivia question we'd ever come up with. But we don't actually take the 10 minutes to go and look up that real financial information that's going to have a far more profound impact on our life. So start with the website. You can reach our team at 877-259-3256. And that'll get you right into our organization. You can reach out. We've got an entire sales team. I'm generally available myself, so you're always welcome to ask for me. If I'm in the office, I'm happy to help. If not, we've got an amazing team here, that can walk you through and talk you through kind of the process. And, as we alluded to earlier, we're not here to tell you what to do or to advise you. That's not our job or our role as a passive custodian. But we certainly want to make sure that you're as educated and informed as possible, so you hopefully can make the best decisions for you and your money.
That's awesome.
Excellent.
That's awesome.
Jason, thank you so much for
thank
your
you.
time today. You've been an awesome guest.
Well, thanks for having me. Really enjoyed it.
I can't wait to your email address. Actually, your website's in the chat box too. If you want to save that, folks, you just you can go ahead and do that. Plus we have it across the screen as well. But I can't wait to get online and watch your 401k that you just finished, because that's exceptionally interesting for me. I
Yeah.
love it.
Absolutely. So, folks, that does it for today. Don't forget, if you're a borrower and you're interested in getting a loan, go to carolinahardmoney.com, click on the borrower tab. If you're interested in passive returns, then click on the investor tab. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe to our channel. Again, next week, we're going to be broadcasting live from the Opal Sands Hotel overlooking the pool and the ocean.
Well, they will. I won't be.
Yeah, I won't
Jonathan
either.
has
I'm
to stay
actually going to
home.
be on a plane. He gets to do it by himself.
I'm doing it solo. Darn, I'm taking one for the team. So,
Poor guy.
Join us next week.
But thanks again,
Thanks again
Jason.
to
That
Jason.
was awesome. Yeah.
You guys have a great week.
Take care, everybody.